Week 3 is complete. We will be discussing the winners and losers of last week. We will also talk about who are the top 10 quarterbacks that are playing this year. And we will also have Trent's top picks or plays of the week. We have that and more coming up next on Goode Sports. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Randy Goode, and I'm excited to talk about this last week and all the things going on. But first, please hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this, you're already on YouTube. If you wouldn't mind just going, hit that subscribe button real quick. It means a lot to us. And also, please add comments. Tell us if you agree or you disagree with our takes, as that really means a lot to us. And it also tells us that what you guys are interested in. So thank you for that. We've had a very interesting week. This was a brutal week for me and my 49ers. Trent, what are your thoughts of the week and how things shook down?
I mean, they kind of said this was like the week of finding out who are pretenders and who are contenders.
Oh, that hurts.
And I'm not gonna lie, I don't think we got anywhere closer to that. As much as I want to come on here and say I know who's gonna do well this year, at this point, 3 weeks in, I think there's still a lot of room to figure out.
I agree. I don't think there's anybody that's separated themselves. There's a couple surprise teams on both winning and losing, but there's not a huge difference. We don't know. Week 8 could be totally different than week 3.
Yeah, and we might get into this maybe a little bit more, but some of those surprise teams, I think, are not going to be there at the end.
They might not be. Yeah, I think some of them are not.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyways, right now we're just looking at records, and sometimes you can break into it and say, well, they didn't play the greatest team. But the problem is you can only play whoever your competition is. So ultimately, some of these teams could be better, some of these teams could be worse. I think we are finding out a lot about maybe position-wise, quarterbacks. Find a lot more out about these quarterbacks and how good they're going to be this year. Jaden Daniels is looking like he was a great pick for the Washington Commanders.
He's on the rise.
He's definitely on the rise. Caleb Williams, as much as he's supposed to be the touted next Trevor Lawrence of sorts, the next prototype QB, he's making some pretty bonehead decisions out there with the Bears. And, eventually, he's going to have to figure out what's going on, or the team's going to have to figure out what's going on. Otherwise, it's not going to be good from here.
Yeah, because Caleb Williams has a much more ready-to-play team than what Jaden Daniels has, and Jaden Daniels is doing more with less. Not that the Commanders are bad, but they're not what
they're not No, they're not.
Yeah.
And we'll get into some of that, I'm sure.
Yep, we will. So last week, we went through our games, and now at the end of this, where we're at overall, Cameron and I are 10-6, and you are 7-9. But there's a long ways to go. Cameron can't join us; he's not feeling well today. So we'll hopefully our prayers are with you, Cameron. I hope you get better. But it's a long ways to go, Trent.
Hey, Drew, can you actually do us a favor too? When we edit this, can we add in Cameron's picks just so we don't have any liars? You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
We got to make sure we're tracking his picks for this week.
Yes, that's true.
I need to catch up.
We need to make sure he makes those picks before Sunday night, because I could see Cameron all of a sudden going 4 for 4.
Yeah.
So
not feeling great about my 7-9 record.
So, let's get started right off the bat. We had maybe one of the better games was the Eagles and the Saints.
Yeah.
Better in the aspect of it was a close nail biter.
Not necessarily a barn burner, that's for sure.
No, it was an interesting game, but we didn't know where the Saints were. They had come off blowing off 2 teams, and I was confused beforehand where the Eagles are, and I'm just as confused after the game. I don't know where they're at, but they won. What was your thoughts?
Honestly, we talk about it, and one of the things I was surprised about is you had the Saints, who had scored 90 points in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you have the Eagles, which is supposed to be a high-powered offense.
Yep.
And they have the guys on the team to do it. Yet we went into the fourth quarter 0-3. Wow.
Barn burner. Woo!
Let me tell you, and it wasn't a fun 0-3.
No.
It was an
No.
absolute wow. Every time you looked at the screen, you're like, I need to get out of here.
Right.
It was painful to watch.
Yes.
And, the first 3 quarters, it seemed like the Eagles were dominating the football game without ever scoring. I think they shot themselves in the foot probably a solid 5 to 6 times, whether it was penalties, fumbles, interceptions,
Right. Oh my gosh.
missed field goals.
Yeah.
I mean, it was extensive. It
Oh
was
my
extensive,
gosh.
and it was to the point where you're going, is this ever going to end? Is this pain ever going to end?
Right.
There's a few things I'd like to know with this game. We talked about it last week. I said the people who are going to be on the hot seat next week, and they don't deserve to be, is the Eagles defense.
Yeah. They played well.
And you go into that game.
Yeah.
They held a team that scored 90 points in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They held them to
Yeah.
3 points all the way to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic ball game. And I sat here and I said, they're going to be the ones to blame. But let me tell you right now, they played actually really well against that Atlanta Falcons team. And I thought they didn't deserve the blame.
Right. And
now I'm going to tell you right now,
yeah,
they won because of that defense.
Yeah.
The offense, they showed up when they needed to, but they won because of that defense. Quinyon Mitchell, I don't know how any football team let him get to pick 27.
Yeah.
They are insane. He looks like a shutdown cornerback as a rookie.
That's awesome.
I like that he has an attitude. He talks
Yeah.
to the receivers. I mean, he was going up in the face of Drake London, talking to him in the Atlanta game. He was going up to the face of Chris Olave, talking to him. Rashid Shaheed, talking to him in the face.
And he's backing it up.
And he's backing it up.
Yeah. That's a great
You
pick.
can't have a good cornerback
Yeah.
and him not talk a little smack.
Yeah.
There's no good cornerback that doesn't talk a little smack. Even Darrell Reeves, quiet guy, he was known for a little smack talk. Just, right below the face mask.
Yeah.
But I really like how he looks. Looks like a great cornerback. Darius Slay, I don't know that he's the Darius Slay of 5 years ago, but he's still playing a pretty good level. And I think the big thing for us this week is Zach Bond, who is our starting linebacker. He has been playing amazing. I think he's averaging something like 15 tackles a game in the first 3 games.
Yeah.
That is a ton of tackles.
Right.
That's a ton
great.
of tackles.
That's great.
And sometimes your leading tackler is a lineman, and it's like 8 tackles.
Yeah.
He's averaging 15 each week. Fantastic. He's getting sacks. But where we sat with this defense last week, and when I said, they're not necessarily to blame, but the one thing I was really worried about last week watching the Atlanta game is there was no pressure on the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And that defensive line came out to play. Jalen Carter had 18 plays.
He was fired up at the end of that game,
too.
too.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
They had 18 plays where Jalen Carter affected the game in some way,
awesome.
shape, or form.
Yeah.
That's 18 times, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
And to tell you what, the Saints didn't have the ball very much.
Right.
Their time of possession was very low.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with how they came out and played this week. They played fired up. I'm still wondering where Josh Huff is and what's going on with him because he's not playing. He's not playing like a $17 million a year player.
No.
But that being said, they came out playing fired up, and they looked fired up. And I wanted those 2 young defensive tackles to come out there and finally put their name on the field, and they did.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that.
That's
We'll move
good.
with that. The one thing that I want to get into, and I want to preference this by saying, in my personal opinion, there is no place in the NFL for dirty plays.
Yeah.
Whether you're Ndamukong Suh back in the day when he stepped on a player, Jadeveon Clowney hitting a quarterback late on a slide.
Yep.
I do not stand for that.
Yeah.
I was raised playing football in a manner of anytime you did anything that was even questionable, your own coach would pull you out and sit you.
Right.
And you have these players who are making millions of dollars a year. And I understand that back in the day in the 60s, this game was a physical game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to stand there and tell you it's not in the game, and it shouldn't be in the game. There was a late hit by a Saints defensive player, concussed Devontae Smith.
That's ridiculous.
He's out for now 2 weeks.
It's ridiculous.
Not only did he late hit Devontae Smith after he's already going to the ground and has 3 people wrapping him up, the play's probably about to be whistled in the next 0.5 seconds, comes flying out of nowhere and nails him.
Yeah.
Then another Saints player actually jumps beside him, very close to hitting him, to grab the ball after he drops it and after he had a helmet-to-helmet contact. And as he gets up, it is on video, the player spitting on Devontae Smith.
That's absurd.
Spitting on him. You can see it in the video.
Yeah.
Gross.
That's where the league needs to get involved.
That is gross and
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
When the next plays later in the game, you have Darius Slay, who's trying to set the edge on a running play. Alvin Kamara is the running back. Trevor Penning, the starting tackle, comes wide out, grabs a hold of Darius Slay. Yes, it was a hold. I'm not upset about that. What I'm upset about is after he held, Alvin Kamara runs out of bounds, and then Trevor Penning continues to block 6 to 7 yards into the actual player's sideline.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like 2 or 3 yards and then a push.
Right.
It's holding on to him 6 to 7 yards into the sideline and then pushing him.
Yeah.
Injures Darius Slay on the play.
How long is he out?
They're not sure. He's day to day.
Okay.
So he's doing.
There's no place for that.
There's no excuse for that.
No, and if you get to Devontae Smith, a concussion could be a career ender too.
Yeah.
And it can affect him for the rest of his life.
Yep.
You can't do stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Saints coach came out and basically said he saw no problem with either of those plays.
Yeah, that means he's justifying.
You can visibly see in a video your player spitting on another player, and you return that comment with saying, I see nothing wrong with that. That is gross and disgusting, and I want nothing to do with your football team for the rest of the time. I will never be a Saints fan as long as that guy is the head coach. I do not support that in any way, shape, or form.
Wow.
Also, the Trevor Penning
absurd.
play, not acceptable.
Yeah.
That all being said, I'm sure the league is going to fine them heavily.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will. And we don't always see these fines come through, but I don't approve it. And I want to follow it with this. As much as I hate to see those things happen, I absolutely loved how that Eagles football team rallied and played afterwards. Notice that it was 0-3 until those two plays occurred.
And then all the scoring happened.
Yeah. You had Saquon Barkley, like 2 plays later, break off one of the longest runs in his career at 65 yards, running at a top speed of almost 21 miles per hour. And then after he jumps in the stands, he gets off and he runs all the way to the end of the sideline. And on his way, he's yelling, "That's for Devontae."
That's awesome.
That's the type of stuff I love to see.
That's awesome.
You have C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the locker room talking about how after Darius Slay, what they did to him, Reed, Blankenship, and him all huddled up and said, "We want nothing to do. That's a dirty team, and we're gonna win this game." And they were fired up. And Reed Blankenship makes that game-winning interception right then and there. Like I said, you had Jalen Carter. I want to preference by saying last week there was a play, in the Packers game, people said something about, was it a dirty play for him tackling Jordan Love? And I did address that.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it needs to be addressed at all times. But then you had some antics going on the sideline this weekend. And, honestly, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it. He never once stepped over the line, in my opinion. Obviously, they're trying to calm him down, and maybe he could have stepped over the line. But, it's hard when you have players like that are so fired up in what they're doing.
Well, that's the thing is these players are already jacked up. You have to be. This is a violent game.
Yeah.
You could go out in you could have a career-ending injury. You could have the ambulance come cart you away if you're not ready to go. And so people are jacked up, ready, and so emotions are high. And when there's stuff that's cheap, and you see your brother over there getting hit like that, and things are happening, it affects you. So maybe this will bring the Eagles together because I am totally confused by this team. Totally confused because their defense is not supposed to be that great, and their offense is supposed to be awesome. And their defense the last couple of weeks have been playing a lot better. You took the number 1 scoring offense in the league and shut them down, completely shut them down. And now you don't have A.J. Brown. That's a big loss.
Yep.
That's a big loss. But, you had Goddard, he was mumbling and bumbling and stumbling, and he made it,
170 yards?
What was it, like a 61-yard reception at the end of the game? That was like, that was great. So we'll see where they're going. Well, let's move on right now. Let's go. Yeah. I'm going to go to my 49ers.
Oh,
I'm going to skip forward to that.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, this was terrible. We gave... I hate giving a game away. Those are the ones that are hard. You're ahead, tied or ahead, 59 minutes of the game, And
59 and a half minutes.
Yeah, 59 and a half minutes. So you have the game. You have to screw everything up. And they did. They screwed everything up. Brock Purdy brought him back to win the game. We miss a kick. He brought him back, threw the ball to Bell. The 49ers had 6 drops. That's terrible.
Yeah.
If you look, good receivers will maybe drop 1 or 2 for the year. That's it. We had 6 in the game. Brock Purdy played awesome. Should have been 28 for 30 for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jennings was awesome. Mason's doing a really good job.
Yeah, he's filling in well.
Everybody else needs to look in the mirror. And I know they're decimated with injuries. I know. But Bosa's got to play better.
You know who the leading rusher in the league is right now?
Who?
Saquon Barkley.
You know
who's number 2?
Who?
Jordan Mason.
Oh, yeah. And they're not even running Jordan Mason which is smart because he's our 3rd running back. So our 4th running back, there's a big drop off. So if they overdo Mason, we're in trouble.
Well, we hope not.
But there's a few, but we in that game went to go win the game, and then we give up a 45-yard pass immediately. They score a touchdown to tie it. Then we come back, and Purdy throws it right to Bell, and Bell just keeps dropping the ball.
Yeah.
And then we punt it with 50 seconds to go. Why would you not punt the ball out of bounds? I don't know why you would give a guy a chance to return it at the 10-yard line when they need to just get a field goal. And we did, and gave up a 40-some-yard punt return, and then we have a pass interference. That was a pass interference, and we lose the game.
Yep.
And so, I don't care about the injuries right now. Well, I do care about the injuries, but that's not the excuse. We had the game. We should have won. We were, our other players didn't step up, and that's where we're at. And now the Shanahan's teams have notoriously started slow. This has been a pattern, and then they have to work really hard, and now they're going to have to do it. But now you have Trent Williams hurt. I don't know how he is gonna be. That offensive line is terrible. He got 18 pressures, and he just was running. He did an awesome job. He ran for 41 yards. He only took 1 sack and 18 pressures. That's a lot of pressures in a game. That's not sustainable. He had an MRI on his back. So we'll see. But that was a terrible loss. Now we're 2 games behind the Seahawks. And
they're not looking bad.
No, they're not. And maybe they've played easier teams so far on their record, but they've won them. And I'm going to tell you what, I'd rather be 3-0 than 1-2.
Oh yeah.
And so it is what it is.
Let me say this for you though.
Yeah.
As someone who's not a 49ers fan.
Yeah.
That was the most exciting game I think I've ever watched that you would have lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched that game and I was fired up about Brock Purdy the whole game.
Yeah, he played really
As someone
well.
who's not a 49ers fan.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching him make A-plus throws almost the whole day.
Yeah.
Also, on the flip side, as someone who's not a 49ers fan, most frustrating game I've ever watched.
Oh, it's terrible.
Because
there were so many.
I watch Juwan Jennings go out and play like a number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there thinking, that is the absolute proof they never needed to re-sign Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, the Brandon Ayuk thing is killing me. Here's what I'm just going to hope, my little prayer upstairs. This is what I want. Pearsall to come back. I would like, and we have Cowling. He's a rookie that's actually really good, but I'd like Pearsall to come back, get a few catches, and I would love it. I don't know how the whole cap thing works. Somehow trade Ayuk. Say, here's the salary that we just gave him to Pittsburgh, who's 3-0, get our draft picks, and get out of this mess. Because it's not that Ayuk did have over 100 yards finally in the game, but we have to throw it to him like 55 times now for him to get like 25 receptions. He's nowhere where he needs to be. He would help Pittsburgh so much, and we don't need it. What the 49ers need is protection. Brock Purdy, more important to Brock Purdy is an extra 1/8 of a second, 1/4 second, 1/2 a second, because he makes the right decisions.
Yep.
And anyway, so yeah, I felt bad for Jennings because he had a career crazy great game, and nobody will remember it because they lost.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean it's a coin with two heads on it.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yep.
I think you walk away from this game going, I really, really like what Brock Purdy's doing, and if he can continue on this path, he's going to be a position where people are going to say he is one of the top quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah. He's got to stay healthy.
On the flip side, you're going,
Brandon Ayuk was
bad deal.
That was a terrible, terrible deal.
Because Juwan Jennings looks like a number 1 wide receiver to me.
Yeah, we do have him through next year, so we did re-sign him, so he's this year and next year. But anyway, so we'll see going forward. Okay, now this one, I just got to ask the question, and I'm serious. At some point, I don't know if God is actually rooting for the Chiefs or helping them. I have no idea what's going on. They're this close to 0-3, and they are not 3-0 because of crazy, awesome comebacks. They are 3-0 because of the craziest thing. So the 49ers lost, and one of the last plays was a pass interference call, which was the right call.
Yep.
It's almost the same exact play. It's just outside versus inside. The linebacker turns his head, the ball is underthrown to the receiver, and it's a PI. The right call, 49ers should lose. Same thing happens to the Chiefs. Same thing, and they get away with it. The week before, they get the call. They get the call last week. They make a PI this week and don't get it, and they barely won. I don't understand it. I don't know why Atlanta didn't kick a field goal. If they'd have kicked a field goal, they got the ball back. They'd have kicked another field goal. They'd have won. People are missing extra points. Refs are – I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm just saying there is something. Mahomes, his stats are not good. I'm not saying they're horrible, but when you talk Mahomes, everybody would say he's the best quarterback in the league. Now, Josh Allen's making some arguments right now, right?
No.
But, like, overall, Mahomes has been number 1. Mahomes is not – let me tell you where Patrick Mahomes is. QBR, 20th. Passer rating, 17th. Total yards, 12th. Average per attempt, 18. That means his receptions are he's throwing it to a running back who's doing everything. He's not top 10 in anything.
Yeah.
And Kelsey's not doing anything, and they don't have Pacheco.
I would hate to see what his stat line is right now. Travis's stat line has to be the worst of his whole career.
Yes, and so but they're win. It's like it's like almost like, hey, don't worry, guys. I'll just have the kicker miss an extra point. You got this. No problem.
I'm amazed. I honestly think these teams are intimidated by them.
I think that's some of it. But you even have, like, Mahomes had a chance to seal the game. He was 3 and out. He had another chance to seal the game again this last 2 possessions. 3 and out, missed a guy wide open, just threw it in the dirt. And he wasn't pressured. But they win. Somehow the other team comes down and they have a chance to win, and a ref does this. So I would rather be the Chiefs. I would rather have the fortune. I've had teams that have had fortune, and I've been really, really happy. But at some point, they're doing something right. Andy Reid is living right. I don't know what it is, but kudos to them. They're 3-0. So,
yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say what's going on there because they continue to do it. As far as the pass interference thing goes, I felt like when they called the penalty last week, in my opinion, I don't know what the rule book says. So I'm just kind of going from an outsider's perspective.
Like they're both going for the ball.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought the rule is both players have the right to the ball. And to me, it looks like that player is trying to intercept the ball.
Right.
Which means he has the right to the ball. So I don't understand why that is a PI because they're both going for the ball. Now, most people sound like they agree with the PI calls, so maybe I just don't understand the rules right.
Well, I think you are right. Both players have a right for the ball. When you see contact when the ball's in the air, you just automatically say, he got hit first. But then you got to replay. That's why I think certain plays inside of 2 minutes or something, there should be a replay on something like this because teams are winning Super Bowls or winning playoff games or going to Super Bowls because of these calls. Yeah. And if the rule is that you both get a play on it, then you should be able to touch another player. But what the refs are doing now is I think they're looking and say they just see contact and they just throw the flag on the defensive player. And I think if they watch it again, if you see the player is going up for the ball and there's contact, then there's no PI. Yeah. And that's the way it should be called.
Yeah, because that doesn't make any sense to me. If let's say a safety is going to intercept a ball and he's got a wide open catch.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a wide receiver hits him. Is it PI on the safety now?
Correct.
That's why I don't understand.
No,
that's what doesn't make any sense to me. And then in the opposite on the opposite way, the other PI that was actually called or not called,
right?
he's got his back to the ball. And that's how I always thought it was supposed to be called, is if you have your back to the ball, it's a PI.
Right.
It's almost like an automatic PI.
Yeah.
There's no other ifs, ands, and buts because you can't see the ball.
I agree with you.
You can't be playing the ball if you can't see the ball.
I totally agree with you.
So anyways, I'm not going to go ahead and say that the Kansas City Chiefs win football games because of PI calls, but I will say
they're just
in that specific situation, those two different calls are just, it's confusing to me. As someone who's sitting at home watching the football game, it's confusing to me because it's not consistent.
What I guess where I'm looking at it, I'm just thinking, whatever, it could go either way. When a call goes either way, it's just they've got fortune. I don't think there's a conspiracy. I'm not trying to claim. I would like the fortune to be on my team every time. I would want that. But it seems like if you go back, it is on their side. They're doing something right. They are getting this all the time. Yeah. And you wonder how long. What I wonder about the Chiefs, and we'll see going forward, I think their schedule actually gets easier coming up in the middle of the season. But they remind me a little bit, the Eagles last year had a lot of close games at the beginning. Yeah. They just barely were winning.
Our first 10 wins were all close games.
Yeah, and so I don't know if that's where the Chiefs are. And I know after you win a Super Bowl, it's lethargic. You come back and you're not, all in. And maybe that's some of it, but they just don't look. I think there is an aura about them and people are afraid. I think that is definitely it. But they just got fortune, and I'm not complaining. I'm wanting to know how we can get that fortune because the 49ers desperately need it. They've got nobody left on their team. But so anyway, okay, so now I think it is time for one of our favorite topics.
Is it time?
It's time for Trent's top plays of the week.
I'm fired up for this one.
Good.
We already talked about this one, but we're going to start out hot. We got number 26 for the Philadelphia Green Eagles. He is fired up. Just saw his buddy Devontae Smith get a dirty hit, and he said, absolutely not in my house. We got a backup left tackle, a backup right tackle and a backup right guard, and he says, I'm going to run right behind him. I trust my boys. And he runs 65 yards for a touchdown, one of the longest touchdown runs in Saquon Barkley's history, running at 21.66 miles per hour. I don't even know a big man can move that fast. The guy squats 600 pounds and can still run 21.66 miles per hour. But, man, I love the fact that he took it to the heart. He said, I'm going to go get a play for that guy right there. Gotta love it. One of my favorite plays of the week. Gotta love them birds fly, Eagles fly.
Yep.
Next on the list, we got Saints. J.T. Gray blocks an Eagles punt.
Yes.
Oh, man.
That was tough.
This is what I love the most about this one. Good job, Nolan Smith. Good job, buddy. You had one job. All you had to do was put a hand on one of the two guys rushing. You didn't touch either of them.
Ole.
You know what my wife says about Nolan Smith? She says, that's the guy with a good smile. It almost makes it worse because she says he has a good smile, Man, bugs me. Anyways, listen, Nolan, you got to put a hand on at least one of the guys. You didn't touch either of them. At least you made the tackle so they didn't score a touchdown. Way to save yourself from not being the world's biggest loser. Anyways, moving on to the next play. Amazing play. Man, I love it. Looking like Billy Bob from Varsity Blues. We got the old Dan Campbell special, hook and ladder. Amon-Ra St. Brown. He says, here, take this little gift, Jameer, and run it to the touchdown. Gosh, I love this play.
Yes.
And you know what's the funniest part? Is I can just imagine Dan Campbell going home at night, putting the old Varsity Blues movie on. He's sitting there watching the movie, and he goes, hook and ladder. I'm going to run that on Sunday. Anyways, he pulls it out.
And it worked.
Yep. Sat behind the TV, found it out, and moved on.
Yep.
My next one, this one's funny. And as someone who used to be a center and loves myself some Jason Kelsey, I love when I get to see a center just make a terrible mistake. Anyways, Ryan Ficken from the Los Angeles Chargers. He muffs the snap. And my favorite part of this is I love the second effort from the big guy to try and sweep the ball back to the quarterback. He slips and lets go of the ball, and then he thinks to himself, I'm just going to sweep it back there. He just kind of does this type of thing. And, buddy, you got one job, and the most important job is to get the ball to the quarterback. I know you got to do it all day, but, man, you got to give it more than the old college try. Next up, Randy, this one's not so hot for you. Kyren Williams.
Oh,
Somersaults into the end zone. That was electric. That was electric. Let me tell you, this made it to the top of the list off of just pure talent and skill. That was a beautiful somersault. You got someone diving at your legs, and he says, whoop. I'm just going to go right over the top. It doesn't get much more graceful. I give it an 8 out of 10. He would have got a 10 out of 10 if he would have landed it. Maybe next time, Kyron. Also, I want to say, one day someone's going to get hurt doing a somersault, and that's going to be the funniest day of my life. I keep on saying, how do these guys keep on doing somersaults and not getting injured? You just think it would have happened by now, you know? Anyways, moving out to Dallas. Listen, Dak Prescott, he's been putting on the old film, and he's been watching the old podcast, and he said, hey, I saw Brock Purdy like that extra buttery popcorn. I'm going to put some on myself. Anyways, he lost the grip of the football. He's been probably taking too many pointers from Brock. And, at the end of the day, I think Dak was just he's tired. He wanted to get to the sideline as quick as possible. He said, let me just slip. And he let that ball go right there and then. Jaden Daniels next on our list. Man, I tell you what, one of the things that I always say I love one the most. Look me dead in the eyes when I say this. I love when the big boys catch the football and run. I love when the big boys catch the football and run. And guess what? He has got a great name. You know his name is Trent Scott. Gotta love it. Great name. Yep. They take the tackle, they roll him out on the offense, and he scores a touchdown. Man, love to see those big boys move. Love to see him catch the pass. But the best part about a big boy is when he scores a touchdown.
The celebration.
The celebration. You got to see him move.
He's got moves.
Listen, the big boys always got the hips, baby. They always got the hips.
He's still jiggling.
Yes, sir. All the way back to the home. All right. Next up. Man, I got to stop talking about this Saints-Eagles game. I'm sorry, guys. It's been a little fandom this week. Saints defenders, they get caught hugging on the field. Dallas Goedert, man, goes 60-something yards for a catch. At the end of the game, all they had to do was not get caught hugging in the middle of the field. You know, honestly, you go back and watch this, the way their eyes look up at each other like, oh my gosh, if I'm not covering them and you're not covering them, who's covering them?
3rd and 16.
But they made a good hug. It was cinematic. And the best part about it is there's 3 of them there. Only 2 of them hugged, but the third one almost joined in. And I thought that would have been funny. Anyways, my good old Coach Green, he used to say, son, you got to keep your head on a swivel. Guess what, Saints? You got to keep your head on a swivel. And this, you're going to love this one, Randy. This one's one of my favorite here. I threw in here, Andy Dalton throws an absolute dot down the seam to Adam Thielen, and I call this the old geriatric touchdown right here. Andy Dalton, 36-year-old. Adam Thielen, 34 years old. Make a beautiful connection, and the best way to cap it off is Thielen gets hurt after catching it. Listen, I don't want to see Thielen hurt, but man, you can't describe a geriatric touchdown other than seeing him get hurt after he scores. That's fantastic. Last one of the day. This one, man, the old DeAndre Swift from the Bears and Caleb Williams. Listen, I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how Caleb's supposed to be this next great quarterback. I think they ran one of the worst terrible option plays I've ever seen on 4th and 1. It was terrible play design. Get their coordinator out of there. Terrible execution. Caleb, what are you doing, buddy? Listen, if you ever been a quarterback, I've never been a quarterback, but I can tell you this. When you run an option play, you need to attack the defender. It looked like you just kind of ran outside and then hoped the ball back over to DeAndre, and DeAndre's like, I don't know what you want me to do with this. Anyways, I was not a huge fan of it. I don't know what you guys got going on out there. I know DeAndre Swift is not a bad running back. Caleb, I hope you're not a bad quarterback. Get it figured out, guys, because that was one of the worst option plays I've seen. And in fact, I watched the old Philadelphia Eagles when Chip Kelly was there, and we ran some bad option plays. That being said, I'm all done with the plays of the week, but I do want to just make an honorable mention here. Will Levis.
Yeah.
Man, I just didn't want to leave him on the list. You know, I didn't want to leave him on the list. Listen, he actually didn't play great. Anyways,
that's better.
I didn't want to leave him on the list. So I added him, but not really. Will Levis, he got sacked by Neil Patrick Ferris from the Packers. Cameron actually sent me this video on TikTok because it's so funny. Neil Petit-Free, the right tackle for the Titans, he literally blocks the wind. Patrick Ferris, he kind of does a swish move, and the right tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere, he kind of just goes back down to a 3-point stance. And if I'll Drew put the clip in there, but it's funny because he kind of just blocks the air, and then goes back to a 3-point stance.
Starts over.
It's
Yeah.
like a reverse. So anyways, I got my Will Levis hate in there. Just kidding, buddy. I really want you to do good, and I hope the mayonnaise sales go up. So I had to throw him back in there just as an honorable mention.
So those are Trent's top plays.
They felt very top
week.
this week.
All
I'm not
right.
going to lie.
Well, good. Well, now it is time for my real quarterback mountain. We are going to do the top 10. I am not basing this on 5 years ago how somebody played, or 2 years ago, or 1 year ago. This is a real mountain. Nobody gets to have a name on a mountain that's not playing well. The mountain is fluent. You can move up, you can move down, but players should be able to be rewarded accurately for how they're actually playing. So you take all the things into consideration. Nick Wright has been known to have this Mahomes mountain. It's garbage that he gets to be on top no matter how he plays. If he's the best, he should be on top. Putting Caleb Williams on the second or third tier when he was in college is ridiculous. Before he played his first snap was ridiculous. And anyway, now he has him going down slightly, but it's not fair. So what we're going to do is not base it on emotion. It's fair. So here we go with the top players, the top 10 on the mountain in order. Players that are not on this mountain. Dak Prescott. He is not playing. He has one stat because they were way behind and they did an onside kick, and so they just threw it. So he is number one actually overall in yards now by 9 yards. He leads Brock Purdy by 9 yards. However, he's thrown the ball 27 more times than Brock Purdy.
Garbage yards.
To get 9 yards. 27 more attempts. That's not good. So Dak Prescott is 22nd in QBR, 20 in passer rating. He is 20th in average per attempt. He does not belong on the top 10 list. And I'm sorry, but if we removed a name tag, right now Mahomes is just outside the top 10. He is not there. Patrick Mahomes right now is 20th in QBR, 17th in passer rating. He only has one stat in the top 10. So it's not that he's not the greatest and maybe of all the players overall, but this year, what matters is this year's mountain, he's not in the top 10. So top 10, here we go.
What was his one stat in the top 10?
His one stat that he's top 10 is his percentage.
All right.
Which he's dinking and ducking. That's his percent. He's 10th.
Yeah.
So he made 10th, and he got 18th in average per attempt, 12th in total yards, 17th passer rating, and 20 QBR. Sorry, that doesn't cut it. I know you're 3-0. Thank the refs and your coaching and all the other things, but you guys are winning, so good for you. So top 10, C.J. Stroud. He was terrible last week, so he went down, but overall he's done well. He is 9th in total yards. He's hovering around that. A lot of the stats are around the 8th to 12th, 13th range. Even with the bad game overall, his touchdown interception ratio, he's doing well. He does have some good players around him, but he cracks number 10. Number 9, Jalen Hurts. He is a confusing quarterback. I don't know. Now, from a fantasy standpoint, you'd love him.
You're
right?
telling me.
Okay, you might lose a point or two from a fumble or two. However, his rushing yards are great. But he is 10th in quarterback rating, so that kind of comes in close to where he's at now. He's 9th in percentage. He's 11th in average per attempt. So he hovers right around that 10th range, maybe a little bit more, a little bit higher on multiple stats. So he is number 9 on the list. Number 8, Baker Mayfield. Baker had a first game that was insane. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Week 2, he was just mediocre, and week 3, he was bad. Early on, but he is still, overall doing pretty well, and you got to hand it to him. He's got a few stats that are up there. He's not bad with his percentage, his completion. Where he's hurting right now is he's 23 in QBR, 23rd. Yeah. But he's 5th passer rating. He's 14th total yards. Average per attempt is 9th. His percentage is 4th. So he's kind of all over the board a little bit, but he cracks number 8. Number 7, Kyler Murray. He dropped a little bit, but he's still playing really well, and you got to hand it to him. He is 3rd in quarterback rating, 7th in passer rating, What hurts him overall yards, 15th, average per attempt, he's 15th, and his percentage is a little bit lower. And that's the only reason it moves him down to 7. So, he's doing his thing. But Lamar is coming in at number 6. Now, Lamar adds a little different. A lot of these stats don't come into play with running. He's doing well, obviously, there. But in QBR, he's 6th, 11th in passer rating, 10th total yards, 7th average per attempt. His percentage completion, that's the only thing that's holding him out of the top 5. He's 21st there. Number 5, again, based on stats, Geno Smith.
Oh, God.
Geno Smith is playing well. So he is 3rd in overall total yards right now. So you got to hand it to him. His completion percentage is 3rd. So his total yards is 3rd. His completion percentage is 3rd. His QBR is 9th, and his passer rating is 13. So Geno makes the top 5 based on how he's doing. Their team is also 3-0, so you got to hand it to him there. Derek Carr fell a little bit behind. The Eagles did slow him up a little bit, but Derek Carr has some stats that are a little bit misleading. He maybe could be a point or two higher. He is 2nd in QBR, 2nd in passer rating, but he's 22nd in total yards. So a little bit different. He is actually 1st in average per attempt, but he is 11th in percentage. So seems like 4 seems like a good spot for him right now based on where he's at. Number 3 is maybe the biggest shock of everything, but it's Sam Darnold.
Yep.
Sam Darnold is playing exceptional football, and nobody picked it, but he is 5th in QBR. He is 5th in average per attempt. He is 2nd in passer rating. So It's only 3 games, so these guys can make a huge difference. You can go from 15 to probably 6 in one game if you have a good game, but that's where Sam Darnold is. Number 2, Brock Purdy. He is 4th in quarterback rating, 5th in passer rating, 2nd in total yards, 2nd in average possession. He is 1st on first down and completion percentage. He's 1st. And he's top 10. He's 7th actually in percentage overall. That's his lowest stat is 7th. So he last game should have been able to go. He threw for completions. It should have been 28 for 30. He got 22 for 30. He's playing well. And number 1, this is the one that there's the biggest gap, Josh Allen. Josh Allen is killing it. 1 in QBR, 1 in passer rating. The average yards is the only one that he's 16th, but that's because they're absolutely destroying teams.
Yeah.
So he's 3rd in average per attempt, 2nd percentage. He runs the ball well. He throws the ball well. He's playing out of this world right now, clear runner. So that is the real top 10 according to my mountain. So
I actually, I love that. Before the season, we saw a lot of people comparing Josh Allen to your Thanos type of player, right? He just had to do it all himself.
Yep.
And he is.
He is doing it.
He looks like he's got the gauntlet on and all the rings and everything because that man is willing his team to victory.
Yep. And I think they've actually been smart. They had a lot of criticism because they didn't run the ball, but they've really been working on their offensive line, and he's getting protected better. And when you have a good quarterback, I think protecting him is more important than having 5 different receivers.
Yeah.
If you're a good quarterback, you make good decisions, and he does that. That little extra protection, he's killing it. So
look at Justin Herbert. He's playing a lot better this year.
Yep. Justin Herbert is playing better.
Yep.
So that's where we're at there. So now we're going to move on to our predictions for this coming week. Okay. Thursday night, we got the boys versus the Giants, a little NFC East action. Yeah. Trent, why don't you go first? This is your division. So I know this is one of those games where you want them both to lose.
Yeah.
So
here's the deal. First of all, the Cowboys never lose in the division except for to the Eagles.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Second of all, the Cowboys never miss an opportunity to beat up on a terrible team.
Yes.
So taking the Cowboys again.
Okay.
Give me the boys.
Okay.
I think we'll see Dak Prescott bounce back a little bit, have a good week against the Giants. That defense likes to be beat up on, and I think they'll take advantage of that.
Yeah, those are fair takes. The Giants have actually looked a little bit better recently than I thought.
Yes. Malik Neighbors. Get some good receptions out there.
They're doing some things. So that's good. What are they? I think they're 1-2.
Yep.
However, the Cowboys I just think have too much. Not that they're great. They've got an interesting situation with Micah Parsons. It'll be interesting to see how that locker room is and how he's doing. But their comeback was great and all. I think the Ravens maybe fell apart a little bit there and gave up a little bit too early. But I think the Cowboys have too much for the Giants. I just don't think the Giants are ready for this game. So I have the Cowboys as well.
I would love to see Micah come to the Eagles.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet you
He's
would.
a Philadelphia native.
All he
Pennsylvania
needs,
native.
You know what I'd love to see, especially with Cowboy Nation, is a guy like him to not complain about, and it's a big risk. It's easy for me to ask, play out your contract and walk.
Yeah.
Players don't walk anymore.
If he walked, that'd be fantastic.
And to be able to be a free agent and go wherever you want to go, that would be great.
Listen, this is all I'm going to say. Micah, you're going to make the most money you've ever made in your life if you walk.
And you could be the hero.
And you could be the hero of some
Philly.
story.
Yes. So, okay, Eagles-Bucks. This is a very interesting game.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have no idea who the Eagles are. I'm really looking forward to week 10 where I maybe can understand them a little bit better. And the Bucks have right now they're on a slide. They're still 2-1, but it started off fantastic, mediocre, bad.
Yep.
So they have a graph. Things can change, but you don't know what to get from either of them. So who do you got?
In the words of the great Jason Kelsey, hungry dogs run the fastest.
All right.
I'm taking my birds.
Taking the birds.
If you would have asked me last week, I probably would have told you we're going to lose the Saints, we're going to lose the Bucks.
Okay.
But I did watch the tape on them. They did not look necessarily unbeatable like they might have looked in week 1 and partially in week 2. I think this is a revenge game. So we beat them last year in the regular season, and then they kicked us out of the playoffs last year after we had our fall off. So this is a revenge game for the Birds.
Yeah.
Some of these guys can be wanting to beat them.
Okay.
I wouldn't sit out the fact that the Bucks have a very strong, high-powered offense.
Yeah.
And this defense just played really well.
Yep.
But I wouldn't sit out the fact that Bucks defense is no slouch.
Yeah.
And we're going to see how the Eagles play. After last week, I truly do believe in our defense. I think Jalen needs to get his act together. And if he can get his act together, I think this team's going to be spectacular. The one thing that kind of sucks is we're going to be down to our number 3 wide receiver.
Yes, and that's a big deal.
And technically, our number 4 wide receiver is also out on a broken collarbone.
So it's 3 and 5?
It's 3, 5,
and 6.
6, and a guy we pick up off of waiver wires yesterday.
So for those reasons, I am going to go a different route.
All right.
There's a couple reasons. One, it's in Tampa Bay. And that makes a difference. So you usually get a few extra points for that, for just home field advantage. I think Baker's he's a competitor, and I think he's going to bounce back. If A.J. Brown was there, just A.J. Brown, I'd probably go a different route. But he's a great receiver.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith is this early on, to me, was the best I ever saw him look.
Oh, yeah.
He looked great. And so now what you're left with is Hurts, who's not played well. He's played at times, certain possessions, he looks phenomenal. And then it's confusing. So for a guy that just looks to me like he's struggling maybe with some decision-making and confidence, and to not have your 2 security blankets there, so and on the road, so I'm going to go with the Bucks on this one.
I think we're going to come out in a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, and run the ball.
And we're going to run the ball. And
Yes.
we have 3 capable running backs.
Yep. One of them is your quarterback.
Well, we have 4 capable running backs. I think you're gonna probably see us pull out the old double wing, 2 running backs.
Yeah.
I think you'll probably see that too.
Yeah.
So
okay. Well, we'll see. Okay. So we're different on that one. 49ers, Patriots.
49ers move on.
49ers. I think we can move on. Even though the 49ers might not have anybody left on their team, I'm still going 49ers over the Patriots. Now, Brock Purdy does not play. That's a different story, but I think he'll play. I just, based on the people that I know in the organization, which is nobody, I think he's going to play.
Yeah, until Drake May's the quarterback of the Patriots, I'm taking Brock Purdy and the 49ers.
Yeah.
I think that they did play better last week. The Patriots did play better.
Yeah.
Not by much, but they did play better.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that they're going to roll over the Patriots, but with all the people they have out and Brock Purdy maybe on the back situation, we'll see. Ramondre Stevenson had a bad week last week, but he's still a good running back. That 49er defense been looking like it can get carved up every once in a while. Javon Hargrave's out for the year. So, anyways, I don't think they're going to roll over them, but I'm still taking the 49ers.
Yeah, after watching him not try on that one play, I'm hoping that if you've watched the TikTok or the shorts on the short of him not trying at all on the most important play of the game, I'm assuming he tore it there or something, because I've never seen somebody at the end of a game, ever in a game, just stand and just nothing.
Stop.
He just completely stopped. So that was that. So interesting game coming up. The Chiefs versus the Chargers. Who do you have for that game?
To be honest with you, man, this is so hard.
Yes.
This one is a sucky one.
Yeah.
Because I've come to the table every single week, and I'm like, well, it's probably going to be a really close game, which it is. It's going to be. It's happened every week so far.
Yep.
And, the other team should probably win, which they should have, which has happened every week so far.
Yeah. I know.
But somehow the Chiefs are going to win.
They win every time. I get it. So
what am I going to do? Bet against them and then fall another pick behind?
listen, spoiler, I'm actually going to pick it. After everything I said, I'm actually still going to go and roll the dice with the Chargers.
Are you really?
I'm going with the Chargers. It's in LA. And I'm partially basing this on I think Chargers are going to run the ball. I think it'll keep it a possession game. Field position and time of possession game. That's usually how Harbaugh likes to do it. And at some point...
What day are they playing this? Is this a Monday night?
No, it's Sunday. At some point, they're not going to have fortune hit them. And I'm going to pick it this time. I'm going Chargers over Chiefs. So, if you want to go Chiefs, that's a chance, or you can fall further behind. But I don't know.
It's a really double-edged sword here.
Well, you have better odds.
I don't want to pick on the Chiefs anymore. I want to pick a different team.
Yeah, they win. I just win. They win every time. So I'm just going the opposite route.
I need to just come to a realization that I don't want to pick the Chiefs games anymore. If I was at a casino, this would be the last game I would put money on. Like if they said here's 32 games.
Yeah.
Or sorry, 16 games.
Yeah.
Oh, what's less than that? 14 games, whatever it is, with a 2 bye week.
Coming up.
Yep. And you got to pick you got to pick 13 out of 14.
Yeah.
This is the only game I'm not betting on.
But you have to make the pick now.
Okay, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Chiefs. All right, we're on the docket.
I'm gonna be so pissed if I regret that.
Oh,
I'm gonna feel like a big dum-dum.
I'm gonna be. I've picked the Chiefs for the record all 3 games.
You have
Chiefs. So don't get mad at me. Just because
I think it's the first time you're not picking the Eagles either.
Yeah.
You picked the Eagles even against the Saints.
It is. I did.
That's crazy.
True. That's true.
Dang.
That's true. It might be an emotional thing that I'm going through after this week with the 49ers that I need to talk to somebody, get some therapy. So okay, we did our picks. We did our thing. I did want to ask you a question previously. I'm doing my picks of the mountain of who I think are the quarterbacks or whatever. What do you think of some of these so-called experts out there? Nick Wright, to me, has drove me crazy with a lot of the way he makes his picks, and they're kind of obnoxious. What are your thoughts of his picks on the mountain and whatnot in the past?
This is the thing that I was actually going to comment on that earlier.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. I mean, this is the thing is Cameron sent it to me from TikTok a while back ago.
Yeah.
It was like on Monday or Tuesday. It wasn't a while back ago, but you get it anyways. And I texted him back and I said, I just don't understand what he's necessarily trying to point or prove. Because his mountain makes some sense. If you're saying if it's the greatest of all time,
right,
or greatest of current players. But then it honestly doesn't. It makes less sense if you're saying it's a current list of how players are playing.
Right.
And I told Cameron that, and he said, "Well, it's a list of how great players are how they're currently playing." And I'm like, "Well, Mahomes can't be at the top then.
No.
He's not playing well."
No.
And even Cameron's come in here and sat down and said, Well, yeah, he's not playing well. He's not going to play well till the end of the season. And don't get me wrong, when it's week 12, 14, 16, and I'm looking for a quarterback to play, I'm picking Patrick every week.
Yes, those are two different
But it
things.
can't be a current list if you're going to put Patrick at the top currently.
He's 20th in QBR.
That doesn't make any sense.
20th.
And Caleb Williams, I don't necessarily want him not to be good.
Right.
But man, at this point, he does not look good.
No.
And you can say it's the offensive coordinator's problem. You can say it's the head coach's problem. You can say DeAndre Swift isn't as good as a running back as they thought he would, or he's missing Keenan Allen, or their line isn't blocking well enough. I'm sorry. I'm not making that excuse for Jaden Daniels.
Yep, and he's right outside the top 10.
Yeah, and let me tell you, they have one good wide receiver there.
I know.
And their tight end was all pro for us 10 years ago. Okay? So
wow.
I don't want to hear
Ertz.
I don't want to hear that Jaden Daniels is in a better situation. No, I'm sorry. I want to stop hearing the excuses for Caleb because they need to own up to it and he needs to get it right. And I hope he does.
Yeah.
But Nick Wright's stance, and this is the problem with Nick Wright. This is why I can't stand. I think he is actually a great television host. The problem is he had this moment where he put all the chips on the table.
Yep.
He put all the chips on the table at the casino, and that bet paid off.
Yep. And
that
it's
was
his
the
favorite
Kansas
team.
That was the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a Kansas City homer. He's from Kansas City.
Yep.
He's been a Kansas City Chiefs fan his whole life. He put all of his chips on the table for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and it paid off. And awesome. That's great.
Yep.
But now he's the guy at the casino that won all this money, and he's still just throwing because he's saying, I'm the greatest bettor of all time. But he has so much money, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
This is the problem I have with it.
Yeah.
You made one great call.
That's exactly
in your life. And I'm not saying you haven't made other good calls, but stop letting that one great call make it seem like every time you call something, it's now the most correct thing in the whole wide world.
It just, I don't understand why you can't have humility. Him and Colin Cowherd, they're like good buddies, and they're in cahoots on certain things. But it's like when you see something, just admit it.
Yeah.
Okay, I have the 49ers as the number 2 best team in the league. They're not on my top 10.
Yeah.
We just put that out. Why? Because they're not playing like it.
Yeah.
To just keep them on number 2. Well, they're 1 and 2. They're 1 and 3. They're still going to be number 2. It's ridiculous. Say what you see, and then if you're wrong, say I was wrong, and maybe later it'll change. But as of now, they're not here. His thing, he made it on 2 things. The Mahomes was one of them, and frankly, his Brock Purdy thing. He's known as the Brock Purdy hater. Here's what Brock Purdy's done in this league. He's now in year 3. You know how many bad games he's had, Brock Purdy?
Probably not much.
1. He's only had 1 bad game. He's had 3 medium games and 1 bad game. His first game.
What was the bad game?
It was against the Ravens.
Oh, I'd probably tell you he probably didn't like that game he played against the Eagles.
Yeah, well, okay, but that wasn't a bad game. I was going to go into that. So his first year, he comes in. He doesn't get credit because he didn't start it. It came in the first quarter. He won 9 games in a row.
Yeah.
That's how he starts his career as the last pick in the draft. And you know what Nick Wright said? Now, the only game he lost was when the Eagles obliterated his elbow in the first quarter of the NFC Championship game. He was 9-0 of games that he finished.
Yep.
Who does that? His first start of his career, he went out against Tom Brady and won by 30.
Yeah.
That was his first game. Talk about intimidation. He goes in. This is what Nick Wright says in the offseason. Well, yeah, the whole time. We'll see how he does. But now teams have a whole offseason to figure him out. All last year, he was top 1, 2, or 3 MVP candidates throughout the year. Top 5 at least.
Yeah, top 5 at least.
He played the whole year. He had and now we're in year 3. And he moves him down. He moved him down his mountain last week when he had almost 300 yards passing. He threw for 75 completion. Anyway, I just have a problem with Nick Wright and Caleb Williams. So somehow Brock Purdy, who's played in the league and played at a high level, is down here, and Caleb Williams, who never had a snap in the NFL, starts on like the top 4 quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And he won't admit it. He'll say, "Well, I'm being fair." No, you're not fair. Caleb Williams doesn't deserve. He doesn't deserve on a mountain. He deserves on the valley somewhere, way off into the distance. So anyway, I just like to see them actually say things that are correct based on actual facts. And anyway, they cherry pick things. So
What's his current mountain look like?
I don't know what I didn't see his mountain. He
I'm
usually
almost curious.
posts those on Tuesday.
Hold up, I'm pulling it up.
But Colin Cowherd's the same thing. I don't even know if they're actually watching the games. Like, I really don't know that they do. No matter what, if if a player he says is terrible, they're just terrible forever. There's nothing somebody can do. Nothing. If Caleb Williams, watch, if he has a good game next week, he'll be rising on that mountain. He could have 1 out of 5 games good. But because he likes him some Caleb, he had the quarterback for Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence. He had Trevor Lawrence up there forever, even though he's playing terrible forever. And Joe Burrow, now Joe Burrow's played a little bit better here this last game, but Joe Burrow isn't there. So do you have that mountain pulled up?
Yeah.
Okay, who's on the mountain?
This was the one that I actually saw the other day that I was like, that doesn't make
so
any
I'm
sense.
assuming Mahomes 20th in the QBR is number 1, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very accurate depiction. So who's 2 and 3?
Hold up. I want to make sure this is this is the most recent one. Sorry. I don't want to put fake news out here.
Oh yeah, we don't want to do fake news.
Okay. Here we go. Here we go. I'm getting it there.
All right.
We're getting there.
Yes. So anyway, I guess my biggest thing is I just like to fight for all the players. And frankly, if Sam Darnold deserves to be high up on that list, give him it.
Yeah.
But right now they don't do that. And so anyway, we'll see. Are you finding it at all?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if I can find you. We'll have to maybe we'll talk about it more next time we come out here.
Yeah. Okay.
Because this one has I don't think he has Joe Burrow at the top anymore, and this one has Joe Burrow at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, you don't want to pull one up that was from 3 weeks ago and then be wrong, but in fact, the one I'm pulling up right now has Russell Wilson on it, so I'm pretty sure that's not right.
Yeah.
But
anyways, I do know that the last time I saw it, he had Trevor Lawrence like super high, and
yeah,
I was like, what has Trevor Lawrence done recently?
Ever. He has not done anything thus far. He's been a medium quarterback.
And he doesn't call him Trevor Lawrence on his list. He calls him the Prince.
The Prince.
He's
the Prince. Yeah.
Anyways.
So the Prince right now is not on my list, not my top 15 list.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, thank you for joining us. We'll see how things go in the coming weeks, and we look forward to hopefully a much more productive game for the 49ers in week 4. So we'll see you next week.